As a follow-on of the unboxing we did earlier today, let's take a look inside the new edition, the 5.2 edition of Pendragon, and we'll take a look at Paladin. So first, let's begin where things began, with Pendragon. If you're unfamiliar with Pendragon, it's a very peculiar iteration of basic role-playing, which is definitely something that if you have the opportunity to play it, you should try it with sincerity at least once. And I don't really mean one session. You should play it through and experience what Pendragon is about. This is a game where your character will inform you, the player, about the influence, the effect, the nature of knightly virtues. The character will be pushed and pulled by competing passions, by an understanding of what is virtuous versus their ability to discern what might in the moment be necessary. And the interplay of character decision and the dice creates, well, it creates the experience of playing a knight such as one would find in King Arthur's court. To play, you need some d6s, and this particular set came with these custom d6s, where the 6s are replaced by this sigil. And you need a d20, where the 1 is replaced by the crown sigil. Pendragon itself is set, in my experience, anywhere between Uther and Arthur. And many people prefer to play it with this sense, the sense of the knights in shining armor, carrying out great deeds for personal glory, for the betterment of the kingdom, and to further their family in that role. Pendragon is a game where you have different phases connected to the different seasons. And so you have periods of social interaction and you have periods of questing and danger. And the fortunes of your family rise and fall based on how you play the game. As we look at the shrink wrap, we see that a corner has been started for me. So let's see if we can successfully remove it one-handed. All right. I have many different editions of this game, and each one offers the same experience, but how it goes about it, or the natures of the characters involved, has been the part which has changed the most for me. All right, I'm going to have to try a different tack. Okay, we are free of the shrink wrap, which is very virtuous in its attempt to stay closed. This edition, like the editions which precede it, benefits from many eyes being upon the game, providing errata, and plus this edition benefits from being able to draw on, well, beautiful art from one of the foreign licensees in Spain. Right. So we have a distinctive look to inspire the period. You have lots of play aids to help you understand and get into the mindset, the world of the character. We have enough history and societal information to be able to act with confidence, and yet not so much that the game feels like homework. Pendragon is a very impressive experience for, well, exploring a different way to live by feeling the contrast and the similarities between your drives and the drives of your character. It is a fascinating experience for feeling the divide between the goals, the interests, the beliefs of the character and the player. If you're the sort of player who is just yourself with a different name, this can be an experience that shows you something that you haven't experienced yet. If you're the type of player who prefers to sit back and guide a character as though you were an author or a movie director, this again can help you with that, but can also maybe give you a taste of what it's like to play from a different stance. Combat doesn't work like you might expect. There's a lot of drama, and there's a lot of sudden upsets. As befits the genius of the designer Greg Stafford, this game is a tribute to its source material. It's a personalized expression of Stafford's view of the source material, and it is the vehicle for thousands or more gamers around the world to explore the life of a knight in the age of Arthur, shall we say. So, this is the interior of the 5.2 edition. Why 5.2? Well, because the text is largely unchanged from the 5.1 edition. The 5.1 edition is a variation on 5th edition, and 5.2 is errata fixes and different art. So, let's move on to Paladin. Okay, Paladin uses the same system, modified in a sense for a different type of knightly play. But the dice are the same. These ones just happen to be yellow. But we don't need to talk about them again. Paladin, set during a different era, is intended to produce a different feel, to expect different things from its knights. But the heart of the game remains the same, being able to experience that from a character perspective, but also to be able to step back and think about the needs of the character's family, that family's future, their role in their society, and their role in spreading their understanding of how the world works. Of course, sometimes at the point of a sword, sometimes by setting good example. As you can see, the book is well bound. The guilt pages are something that often give me pause. This is not my preference, but it can make for a dramatic impact when showing the book. This is something that can be easily scuffed or marred, come off in the fingers, and so on and so forth. So if the book is going to get a lot of use at the table in the hands of various people, you should not be attached to how those gilded pages end up looking. The cover is a nice matte finish, has very bright colors and good texture. It has two bookmarks, one red, one gold or yellow, and has an impressive amount of material within. As we mentioned earlier in the previous video, it has a flirtation with looking a bit like an illuminated manuscript, but retains its functionality and legibility. As we go through page after page of contents, we find that the last reference here, get in focus, is on page 452. And then we have an index of tables. I love it. If a game is going to rely on tables, and the use of tables in Pendragon and Paladin is not one that impedes play, but when you want them, they're the sort of thing that you can't find. Well, now that problem is solved. We also have an index of where the maps are, which is something that I quite like. So we have a tasteful use of color throughout, and as we go through, of course, we're going to note, because of the edges of the pages, that there is some sticking, but this is a good example page of what you can expect at the head of a chapter. And then inside the chapter, you'll find things look more like this, with clear tables, headers, charts, and the like. The game plays quickly, not relying on table lookups to any great degree, and it's not a terribly heavy system. The character sheet is often enough to be self-explanatory, and newcomers to the game tend to pick it up quickly, and the enjoyment of it is, of course, like with any game, dependent on how well the group communicates together as a group for their goal, and how well the material is understood by them so that they are seeing the material for what that material is trying to accomplish, so that they're seeing the game system for what that system is trying to accomplish. They can find a way to become in harmony with that as themselves and then play. Because this is a game for people to play, it's not 100% historical. There have been changes made to it to allow for fun imagery in your imagination, and there have been changes made to it to open the game up to a different understanding of what a knight might be, so that people don't feel excluded at the table. So, Paladin, sometimes I guess becoming a loaded word in these modern times, but from a certain point of view, there's something to be said for standing up for what's right. So, that's a quick look at Pendragon, the 5.2 edition, and Paladin, Warriors of Charlemagne, in its initial edition. And I guess before we go, let's take a quick look at the Adventures book. All right. As those who are familiar with this channel may recognize, I am loath to talk about the content of adventures or to show the inside of them for fear of spoiling someone's fun. So suffice it to say that this book contains 8 adventures. It's of a reasonable size. It's also containing a ribbon bookmark. And if we take a look inside, we have full color pages, the light gloss, and we have the following adventures. And the game, the last adventure begins on page 88. And the book in total, see if we can do this, runs to page 118. And I guess we'll finish off with a look at the character sheet. All right. So, I hope you've enjoyed this quick trip through some books that I have waited a long time to receive, that the system for which has had a special place in my heart as a gamer, as an Arthurian student, and just as a general respecter of the work of Greg Stafford. So, if you have experience with the game and are interested in talking about it, please go ahead and leave a comment below. That's what this channel is all about: interaction with people who play.